Hi friends, I'm Yakuta Karkhanawala. So today we are going to see the next topic of functions, that is categories of functions. Basically we have seen that the syntax of function is return type, function name and bracket argument list. The argument list should be written as data type variable 1, data type variable 2 and so on. Okay, so this was what we have seen in the last video, the syntax of functions. Now, as you can see here that the function, whenever we declare a function, there are two important parts of the function. One is the return type and another is argument list. Based on these two things, we have four categories of function. The first one is a function which has no arguments and no return types. So in this case, the function is written as void. Since there is no return type, so we write it as void in the return type. Name of the function is add and there are no arguments, so the brackets are empty. The second category of the function is argument is present and return type is not present. In that case, how you are going to write down the syntax of the function? Since return type is not there, so void, name of the function is add and argument list are present. So you can have now any number of arguments of any data type. So I've given a series of examples. The first one is in which I have two arguments. One is both of them are integer. So integer A comma integer B. The second one is you can also write a declaration of such type of function as void add bracket integer comma integer. No need to specify the name of the variable during declarations of second category of the function. The third one is void add bracket integer a comma float b. Means I have two arguments here, but one is integer and another is float. And the last example is void add integer a comma integer b comma integer c. It means that the function has arguments, and how many arguments are there? Total 3 arguments are present. Everywhere the return type should be void for the second category of the function. The third category of the function is there are no arguments but return type is present. Since it is written yes. So in that case, our declaration of the function would be integer because the return type is present. So you can use any data type except void. Integer, character, float, all data types are allowed for return type, but you should not mention void anytime. The name of the function is add and there are no arguments in the list. And the last category is where you have return type as well as argument list. So in that case, the declaration of the function would be integer add comma integer a comma integer b. So that is the return type is also present and the arguments are also present, right? Or else you can have integer add comma integer and the last is or float add comma integer. It means that there are two arguments, both of them are integer and the return type is float. So you can prepare your program as per any categories of the function as per the requirement of the program. The name of this particular four categories of the function, I have here mentioned no arguments, no return type, but the full name of this particular category is function with no arguments and no return values. For the second category, the argument is yes, return type is no. So in that case, the name of the function is function with arguments but no return values. Similarly, the third one is function with no arguments and but with return values. And the last one is function which has both arguments as well as return values. Okay. Yes, no, the table is only for remembering purpose, but you should also remember the name of this particular four categories of function. So let's understand a few more details about this categories of function. The first one was a function with no arguments and no return value. What it means is normally whenever we are writing functions, we have two functions. One is the calling function and another is called function. Say the calling function is our main and the called function name is add. Means we are going to make a function, user defined function, and the name of the function would be add. When we say that there are no arguments and no return values, it means that a calling function is not passing any arguments to the called function and the called function is not returning any value to the calling function. It means that there is no communication between the two functions. Both the functions are executed individually. The next one is function with arguments but no return values. Again, we have two functions. One is calling function and another is called function. When we say that the function has arguments, it means that the calling function is going to pass some argument to the called function. But in return, the call function is not going to return any value to the main function or the calling function. The third one is the function with no arguments and but with return values. Means return is present but arguments are not present. How you'll understand this with the diagram? That the calling function is not passing any arguments to the called function, but the called function does returns, it returns some value to the main function. So the main function can work on this return value for some particular processing work. And the last one is function with arguments and with return values. Means in this case, the calling function is going to pass some argument to the called function, and also the add function is going to return some value to the calling function. There is a two-way communication between the calling function and the called function. So this was a brief details of the categories of function. Now we'll see the details and programs of each category of the functions. So we'll start with the first function category, that is function with no argument and no return type. So till now you have understood that function with no argument and no return type means there is no communication between calling and the called function. That is, the calling function does not pass any arguments, neither the called functions returns any value to the calling function. So what would be the syntax of this category? The first syntax is void because there is no return type. Function, give any function name, and the bracket should also be empty. So this is the way you are going to declare the first category of the function, and it with semicolon. So what does first category of the function means is it does not receive any data from the calling function. Similarly, it does not return any value. So there is no communication between the calling and the called function. Let's see this with an example. So I'm going to write two functions here. One would be the calling function main and another would be the called function add. So first start with the main. Do the declaration of the function of first category, that is void add empty brackets. Simpler printf statements I've mentioned here. So printf before the function call. So in each of the categories, remember this, you have to perform all the three steps, that is declaration, definition and call. So first I've done the declaration, now I'm calling the function add. How you are going to call the function? Add and empty brackets. The function is not going to return any values, neither it is going to pass any values. So we'll keep the brackets as empty. And after calling the function, I have mentioned one more printf statement, that is after function call. So this is the end of my calling function main. I have done the declaration, I have called the function add. Now whenever I call the function add, my compiler will go to the definition part of the function. So how you are going to define the function? Write the same thing, void add and put braces. Now you have to write down the logic of the program. So we need to perform addition of two numbers. For that, how you will do the addition of two numbers is first declare A, B and C. So enter the values inside A and B using scanf and do the addition. C is equal to A plus B. So the addition of A and B would be done and the result is stored in C. And this value is displayed into the function. So whenever this function will be called, two values will have to be inputted and the addition would be performed and the result would be displayed in the function itself. Okay, so whenever you will execute this particular program, you will get the output as before the function call because of the first printf statements inside the main. Then you're calling the function add. So it goes to the definition. So whatever you have written in the definition will be executed. So here we have entered two values. I've entered two numbers 3 and 7 and the result has been displayed that is 10. Once all the lines are executed of this, the control will go back to the next line of the function call. What is the next line of the function call? Printf after function call. So this after function call is displayed onto the screen. So this is the first category of the function where we have seen the syntax, the meaning of this particular category of the function and a small program with respect to this. Similarly, we'll see for the rest of the categories of the function. What's the next category? A function with arguments but no return value. So how you are going to write down the syntax of this category? There is no return value, so void, give any function name, but In this case, now the argument list will be present. Remember this, the argument list should be in the back, the name of the data type and the name of the variable. So in this category, the function has some arguments, that is this arguments it receives from the calling program, but this function does not return any value to the calling program. So you can say that there is only one way communication between the calling and the called function. In this case, the calling function is going to pass some arguments to the called function, but in return, the called function is not going to return any value to the calling function. Let's see the program of this. Write down the calling function, that is main. Here I am declaring two variables x and y. Do the declaration of the function. For doing the declaration of the function, make sure that the return type is void and there are arguments in the list. So the function name is add and I'm going to pass two integer arguments, integer comma integer. Whenever you are doing declaration, the name of the variable is not compulsory. You can omit it, but the mentioning of data type is compulsory. Next is a simple printf statement before function call. Now I'm going to enter two values inside x and y. So printf enter two values and use scanf to enter the values in x and y. Now you want to call this particular function. So calling is different as compared to the previous category. How you will call this function is add, and in bracket you are going to pass some values. Passing the values can be directly or it can be through some variables. Now I have some values in x and y. So I am going to pass these values to the function add. So for that, write add bracket x comma y. So this x y values will go from the calling program main to the called function add, to the definition of the function. And after add, I have written a simple printf statement after function call. Now how you are going to write down the definition? So void add, in bracket you have to pass two arguments. One is integer a comma another is integer b. Here the name of the variable is compulsory during the definition of the function. So whatever value you are going to pass through x and y, this value of x will be copied in the variable a and the value of y will be copied in the variable y. So you will get a copy of the values of x and y in a and b. Now in the function definition, you don't need now to declare a and b. The values of a and b you will get from the calling function. So simply declare the variable c. Do the addition. C is equal to a plus b. So whatever you have got the values of a and b through x and y, perform addition and store the result in C and display the value of C, the function definition of the function. So this is the way how you are going to declare or define the second category function, and remember the way how we call the second category of the function. That is, whenever you are calling the function, you need to pass the value. Either directly you can write add 5 comma 6 or you can store it in some variables and then pass it during the function call. So when you will execute this program, the output would be before function call, then enter two values. Now this enter two values 3 and 7. These are the part of the calling function and not the definition of the function. These two lines I have written in the calling function, that is main. Then 3 and 7 are stored in x and y. Whenever the function is been called, the value of x is stored in a. So a will have the value 3 and b will have the value 7. Perform the addition on this, that is 3 plus 7. The result is stored in c and it is displayed onto the screen. So the add result is 10. And after executing every statements of this function add, the control will go to the next line of the function call. What is our next line of the function call? That is printf after function call. So that would be displayed onto the screen. So this was about the second category of the function. Similarly, we'll go see the next category, that is the third one, the functions with no arguments but with written values. Now we don't have our arguments but we have written values. What it means is that a calling function is not going to pass any arguments to the called function, but the called function is going to return some value to the calling function. So still we have one-way communication between the two functions. What would be the syntax of this type of function is data type. Now in return type, you are going to mention some data type. It can be integer, float, character and so. You cannot mention here void in the return type. Then give the function name and the brackets should be empty because there are no arguments in this function. in this type of function, you have to compulsory use a return keyword. Okay, so in this category, there are no arguments, that the calling function does not pass any values, but the called function returns a value to the calling function. It's a one-way communication. Let's understand this with an example. I've declared a variable z. How you're going to declare the function? Integer add bracket empty. The bracket should be empty, but the return type should not be void. If I write it here integer, it means that the function is going to return an integer value to this main function. A simple printf statement. Now, how you are going to call this particular third category of function? So, z equal to add bracket empty means we are calling the function add, in which we are not passing any values, but this function will return some value, and that value I'm storing it in z variable using assignment operator. And then after that we have simple a print statement in which I'm going to display the value of z. Okay, I'll see what value I have got from add function, which has been stored in z variable, and this value I'm going to display in main itself. What would be the definition of the function? Integer add, the signature of the function, and the braces. Within the braces, you will write down the logic of the program. I'm not getting any values a and b as an arguments here. The arguments are empty. So what I'll do is I'll declare two variables a, b, and c is for storing the result. Get some values inside a and b. Perform the addition using the equation c is equal to a plus b. Now, whatever value I have it in C, this result, I want to return it to the calling function. You can return any values, but what I want to do is I want to return the result of the addition of the two. Printf exiting function add and return C. It means the value of C is returned to the calling function, that is main. You can see here I have mentioned the keyword return here. Okay, so in whenever you have some return type at integer, float, or whatever, you should compulsory have a return keyword in the program. So I have written return, and what I want to return to the calling function, some value which has been stored in C. So return C and end it with semicolon. Whatever value I'm returning through C is stored in Z, and that Z value is displayed in the main function. So whenever you will execute this program, the output would be before function call as usual. Then you are calling the function add. So it would go to the definition of the function where you will enter the values of a and b, perform the addition, that is 3 plus 7, the value in C is 10. Then printf exiting add function add would be displayed onto the screen. Return C means return the value 10. This 10 value will go to the main and will be stored inside Z and then display the result. So add result is 10. So you can see the flow, how the each and every statements are executed in what order. So you should understand this, the order of the functions, call, how the definition is executed, and what type of sequence has been followed. So this was all about the third category of the function, a bit tricky compared to the first and to second category function. Last function category is function with arguments and with written values. Means now the arguments are also present and the written value is also present. So in that case, what would be the signature or the syntax of the function? Mention any data type in the return type, should not be void, give the name of the function, and now the argument list are also present. So the bracket should not be empty. So in this category, the function has some arguments and it receives the data from the calling function. Similarly, the function is going to return some value also to the calling function. So here you can say that there is a two-way communication between the calling and the called function. So the diagram for this would be a function call, let's say it's a main. It passes some argument to the called function, say it's an add function in our case, and the add function is also going to return some value to the calling function. Let's understand this with a small program. So now I have declared two free variables x, y, and z. The declaration of the function would be integer, return type is present, which is an integer value. Add the name of the function, and in bracket the argument should also be present. So I am passing two arguments and both of them are an integer. First, you need to get some values in x and y. Okay, so you use scanf function to get some values into x and y. Now how you are going to call the fourth category of function. Check it very nicely. See how I'm going to call this function? Z equal to add bracket x comma y. What it means is I'm calling a function add in which I'm passing the values of x and y. It will use these values x and y and perform some computation, and the add function is going to return some value, and this value would be stored in z, and then I'll display the value of z. What would be the definition of the function? Integer add bracket integer a comma integer b. Remember this. Now here in definition you have to compulsory mention the name of the variables also. The data type should exactly match that as that of the declaration. Inside the definition, declare a variable c, perform the addition of a and b, c is equal to a plus b, a simple printf statement exiting the function add, and now you need to return some value to the calling function. So in this case, I'm returning the value of c, so return c. You can return a also, you can return b also, but what is my motto is to return the value result of the addition of the two variables. So return C. So this C value will go and it will be stored in Z. And now I'm displaying the value of Z inside main. So I'll get the result of A and B. So you can see here that I'm getting the value of X and Y in main, but the addition operation I'm doing it in the function add. And the result I'll get it through the add function only. So the output would be exactly same as that of the previous one, but the way of writing the steps of function call, function definition in this case is say in each and every four categories output was exactly same, but only difference is the way of how you are going to declare a function, how you are going to call the function, and how you are going to define the function. So you need to remember these things properly and implement it accordingly in your program. So that's all for today. Goodbye. Thank you.